Viewer discretion is advised.
Boom, perfect timing.
What am I doing in an interrogation room? At that time, I honestly did not even know what this was about.
All right.
Yeah. Am I allowed to ask questions during this interview?
Absolutely. It's a two-way conversation, Victor. You invited her to your house. You told her nobody was home. And she gets there and there's nobody there. And you push her on the floor beside your bed, between the dresser and the bed. You push her down on the floor. You get on top of her. You hold her arms down where she can't move.
This never happened.
And then you tell her to get up, and she's not moving quick enough for you, so you grab her. She then shoves you off, and she stands up on her own, and she tries to walk past you. And you don't let her. You're standing in her way. She tells you to get out of her way. She's crying. She's saying to let her go, but you don't get out of her way. You then push her down on the bed and sexually assault her. That's the story as she tells it. Maybe in your family's culture, and I understand it, women are kind of looked at as second-class citizens or something like that in your eyes. I don't know.
In 2013, 20-year-old UVA student Victor Zhang was accused by ex-girlfriend Jenny Zhang. He was ultimately arrested and would spend 6 nights in jail, was made to spend $60,000 on lawyer fees, and faced the possibility of life in prison for a crime he did not commit. The arresting officer in this case was Detective Darrin DeCoster of the Fairfax County Police Department. During Darrin DeCoster's very long career in law enforcement, he would obtain false confessions using a myriad of manipulative interrogation tactics. In fact, the Washington University School of Law uses one of Detective DeCoster's past interrogations to show students how easy it is for police to produce a false confession.
You had a momentary lapse in judgment. You made a bad decision, but you're not a bad guy. You speak English, you haven't been violent, you've been cooperative, everything I've told you is we're grateful up here. So I'm inclined to try to help you clean this guy up. Okay? If you had been a pain in the ass to the officers, if you didn't speak English, if you were disrespectful, if you were violent, I'd be like, screw it, I'll just do it in a different way. But that's not you, is it? You're a good dude?
To be honest, like,
Please.
I really don't remember doing any of this stuff. Like, I'm not trying to lie to you or anything, I'm just saying, maybe I must have blacked out or done something.
Russ, come on, you're doing so good, man. Don't you think an unbiased third-party hearing of this situation went on, do you think that they would think you didn't do anything wrong? We're talking kids who were, what, 4, 8, and 9? You did something wrong, Russ. Right?
I went to the jail to meet my client. I saw the tape before I met him. Went over there feeling pretty dejected and expected the conversation to turn quickly to plea agreements. And instead, my client said, I didn't do anything. And I said, I saw the video. And he said, I know. He said, I know, but I don't know why I said those things, and I am not guilty. The punchline, of course, is that after getting educated and developing a willingness to take on the confession, combined with good fact investigation and great experts, the jury found my client not guilty on all counts. And so he's a free man after spending 18 months in jail waiting that trial.
Here's a quote directly from the Washington University School of Law website. In addition to challenging the confession, we had some DNA evidence that didn't fit with the detective's theory of what happened to the children. Shapiro says that confessions are extremely difficult to combat, and that without that additional DNA evidence, Russell would probably be sitting in jail. Back in 2020, I had the opportunity to interview Victor Zhang regarding his disturbing experience with the Fairfax County Police Department. We talked about the entirety of his case, and this is what he had to say.
So I was in a relationship with a girl throughout my last year in high school and the beginning of college. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And on top of that, we're just teenagers, so we probably didn't handle our relationship in the most mature ways. We had a lot of fights, and yes, and there was just a lot of struggling in that relationship, and she and I were kind of figuring out what was best for ourselves. And then naturally, it sort of dissipated because I'm a year above her. When I was a freshman in college, she was still a senior in high school, and then the relationship eventually ended. But we kept in touch, and she was very angry with me for what she says is abandonment because I chose to go to a college far from our hometown in Nova. I went to JMU my first year and then transferred to UVA my second year. And then it was July of 2013 that I got a call from my ex-girlfriend suddenly. She called me asking me to confess to something that happened in 2012, but she wasn't being specific about what. She said that I forced her to do something. I even asked her directly that, are you saying that I raped you? Are you saying that I forced you to have sex with me? She said, oh, no, it's not that. But it was clear that she was trying to push me in that direction.
This is a controlled phone call on July 18, 2013, approximately 13:20 hours between me and Victor. This goes in your ear. Don't dial it yet. Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
Hey, this is...
Yeah, what's up?
Is now good?
Now? No, it's not exactly the best time. When are you free again?
I don't think I'll be free for a while, so this is probably the only time. Like, you forced me to have sex with you and all that, and you, push me down, I was really scared. Why would you do that,
We didn't have sex.
Yeah, we did.
Last spring? We haven't had sex since November.
At your house? Do you remember that? I don't want to go into...
I mean,
I just...
Are you talking about senior? Are you talking about high school or junior year, my senior year?
No, including that but I'm talking about... Yes. See, junior year, spring, and you kind of pushed me on the floor. I don't want to go into this, but I need...
I don't remember the incident. I don't remember ever forcing you to have sex with me.
Okay, I just don't want to go into this because I started, seeing somebody asking my counselor, and he said if you want to move forward into friendship and all that, you gotta take this up with him and let him know how you feel. So I'm doing that. I'm going back.
So are you saying that I raped you?
I'm saying because of the things that happened in the past, because of what you did, it really, momentarily, especially, it had an impact on me. But then there are times when I think back, when I think about, chances of us going forward, and I just need to move past this, it may not seem a big deal to you, but it is a very, I don't know, it's a big deal for me because of what happened.
I know the kind of impact I made on you, but I never raped you.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Can you give me a few minutes? Because I'm in a class right now, okay?
I need to talk. No, I can't. We need to talk about this now. Can you, step out or something?
I know I've been out for a while. It's almost over. Let me go back, get my stuff, and can I call you?
It's either now, okay. It's either now or I'm not. I just can't talk to you again. It's either now or...
Can you stay on the line and let me just get my stuff?
That day when I was in your room, okay, this is the one incident, okay, you told me you wanted to talk or whatever. I went to your room. At some point I felt uncomfortable, so I wanted to leave. Do you remember... me trying to leave, and then you just got really angry, and I could understand the anger where it stemmed from, but then why did you have to put your hand and push me down on the floor? I was really scared,
Were we dating at the time?
No, I don't think so. I think that was the whole point of the conversation, because we were considering like going into, trying it. That was like the whole point of like you asking me to go, and I was like up for it. That was the whole point of that conversation that day.
And this is spring of 2012? Spring of 2012 during tennis season when you were a junior and I was a senior.
It was during Spain, and I remember the exact incident, how it went down. If you really want me to go into detail, I can. But how can you not remember, like...
Give me the chronology. Was it during tennis season? Did you have, like, a tennis match that day?
I did not have a tennis match that day.
Why are you so adamant about me trying to get to admit something?
Because I need this sense of closure, Like, you don't understand how many sleepless nights I have. Like, are you sorry at all?
I then hung up on her, and then about less than a minute later, Detective Darrin DeCoster from the Fairfax County Police Department calls me, yelling at me, screaming at me. At that time, I'm a 20-year-old guy, and I was just so intimidated and shocked, and I thought that my world was collapsing. I sort of had this idea that the phone call was totally not normal. She sounded like she was smiling, and it sounded scripted as well. Whatever she was saying sounded very unnatural. And when Detective DeCoster called me back, he said that I must go to the police station tomorrow for an interview, but it's an interrogation. And if I did not cooperate with him, he will arrest me on a slew of charges. So the next day, basically out of intimidation, and we didn't have time to find a lawyer. I obviously, in hindsight, shouldn't have gone to the interrogation, but I was naive. I assumed that I could go to the police, explain my side of the story. They'll do a fair investigation. Maybe he's just being rough because that's what policemen have to do.
All right.
Yeah. Am I allowed to ask questions during this interview?
Absolutely. It's a two-way conversation, Victor. You invited her to your house. You told her nobody was home. And she gets there, and there's nobody there. And you push her on the floor beside your bed, between the dresser and the bed. You push her down on the floor. You get on top of her. You hold her arms down where she can't move.
This never happened.
And then you tell her to get up, and she's not moving quick enough for you, so you grab her. She then shoves you off, and she stands up on her own, and she tries to walk past you. And you don't let her. You're standing in her way. She tells you to get out of her way. She's crying. She's saying to let her go, but you don't get out of her way. You then push her down on the bed and sexually assault her. That's the story as she tells it. Maybe in your family's culture, and I understand it, women are kind of looked at as second-class citizens or something like that in your eyes. I don't know. You're not a dumb guy. You're educated. You're pretty bright. You come across like a kind of a cocky smartass, but I get it.
I'm not trying to be cocky.
Okay? But you could be charged with sexual assault, potentially. Is that what you want?
No, I don't.
Do you want to be a registered sex offender?
No, I do not.
Do you want that connotation associated with your family name?
No.
I didn't want to tell your mother downstairs anything because you don't want to break her heart like that, do you?
I mean, I've told her.
No, you haven't. You haven't told her the details. I don't believe for a second you told your mom what happened. Because if you told her, she wouldn't be down there like she is.
I told her all the potential consequences. And
No, you didn't. You didn't tell her. And if that's true, if you told her about everything, then I'm going to subpoena your mom to court. She's now a witness. End of this, or at some point during this, I'm going to ask you if you're willing to take a lie detector test. Polygraph?
Yeah.
I want to know if what you're telling me is true. Said she'd be willing to take a polygraph. So again, if you leave things out, if you minimize or if you lie, I just don't want to hear it. You're wasting my time.
May I ask if I could take a polygraph regarding that event when she said I pushed her on the floor? Because
again, we use that as a tool to help make decisions. We can deal with that at some point. Roughly, how many times have you had sex with her? Roughly.
Is that relevant?
Yes.
Several times.
Several times?
I can't give you, I don't know if I could give you a number.
Less than 100?
I guess so, around there. But it's just, she has a personality disorder. At first I thought I could handle it. I can't. I realized I can't. And
So now you're saying she has a personality disorder?
She does.
Like what?
Borderline personality disorder.
According to who?
According to her and her mom. That's what they've told me.
Do you suffer from anything?
No.
You sure?
I don't have a personality disorder. No.
Really? You made it worse. I didn't think you'd do that. I thought you kind of saw the light yesterday, and you're going to come in here and be a gentleman, and you're going to handle your business, and you're smart enough. I thought, well, here's this guy who's going to UVA. He's got to be smart enough to realize what his situation is, and he has no choice but to clean this up. You haven't cleaned up shit.
I mean,
you made it worse.
I'm not going to admit to something that I did not do.
From that interrogation in July to that phone call in October, I just hear nothing from the police department, and Detective DeCoster randomly calls me, and then I hang up on him. And then on October 3rd, at around 3:30 p.m., I am arrested.
On October 3rd, 2013, 3 months after Mr. Zhang's interrogation, Detective DeCoster would arrest Mr. Zhang on charges of rape and abduction with intent to defile.
When I went to my bail hearing, when the judge and the county are determining whether I should be out on the streets on bail, Detective DeCoster was supposed to show up to that bail hearing, and to this day, it's still a mystery why he did not show up. My lawyer said that he would definitely show up because in general, especially for an accused rapist, an abductor, you want to keep these people in jail. You want to do your best efforts to go to that bail hearing and tell the judge, this is why this person should not be out on the streets. DeCoster was not there. The stand was empty. The prosecutor was really confused that day. She even tried calling DeCoster and told the judge, I tried to call the detective, but he didn't pick up my calls, so I have nothing on this case. I don't know anything about the defendant, Mr. Zhang. And obviously I was granted bail. And that's the paradox I deal with. It's that they were supposed to try harder to keep me in jail, and it was so easy to get me to jail and get me arrested and put me through this traumatic experience. But at the same time, they didn't take it seriously after the arrest. If I recall correctly, it was 3 days before my preliminary hearing. My preliminary hearing was set for November 15th of 2013. We got all the files I can't say all the files, but we got the prosecution's files. And it was a joke. I remember laughing and crying at the same time when I saw the case the detective put together. You see an interview with the complainant, my ex-girlfriend.
So your best guess would be in March of 2012.
Best guess, but it's a guess.
Again, this is spring of 2012. From then until this year, July of this year, when you reported this, did you have any other kind of intimate contact with him? You said no sex. I don't want to read into it, but somebody else could. What do you mean by that? Okay, there was no sex, but was there something else? Was there kissing or touching? Or?
As in, nothing physical.
Here are a few messages from Jenny sent to Mr. Zhang during the time frame of the alleged assault.
And who are the people that you told?
Names. Hassan, Quran.
Is Hassan just a friend, a boyfriend, something else? He's just a friend. There's never been anything intimate between you guys? Why'd you have to think about it like that?
Because at one point, we mutually liked each other, but nothing really happened. So yeah.
We also discovered that in the prosecution's file that there was a phone call between Detective DeCoster and one of Jenny's friends named Hassan. And in Hassan's call, first, he's very hesitant to go to trial because he makes up some shitty excuse of, I got homework to do and I got to study. If your friend has been raped, then you're a pretty shitty friend if you're saying that, sorry, I'm not going to go to court because I got to finish my physics homework. His story did not have any parallels with Jenny's.
She texted me saying, can I give her a ride? And I wasn't doing anything at the time. So I picked her up from school, and apparently she was running away from something, but she was, panting when I picked her up. And she's like, can you just drive me somewhere? So I drove her to a parking lot behind our old school. And I asked her what happened because she was crying, and she told me that her ex-boyfriend, Victor, he forced her to come with her, coerced her to come to his house. And she's obviously reluctant to go to his house, but he told her apparently that his mom would be home and nothing funny would happen. And because he goes to Virginia Tech, and so he wasn't around as much. By the time the conversation was done, I dropped her off at her house, and she said that to tell her parents and file a police report. I thought she did that in April or March, around that date. I don't remember the month specifically.
Let me ask you, if it got to a point where we were going to end up going to court over this, would you be willing to testify and basically just say what you just told me? If need be, is that something you can do?
Depends on what point in how it happens, because I really want to focus on my studies, and the court case would take place in McLean or in the Nova region?
Yeah, in Fairfax.
Yeah. I don't know if I can make the trip for one court case, especially if school's going on.
Well,
I really don't. I hate to do this to her. I really do. I thought, yeah.
They were off by a year because Jenny claimed that she was raped sometime between March 1st and June 1st of 2012, which is crazy that you can make an accusation and not remember a specific month of when it happened. I think that's crazy. Of course, people will say, well, victims of sexual assault don't quite remember the details. It's very traumatic. Okay, but how can you say that this horrible thing happened to me sometime in the spring and summer of 2012? That was her accusation. That was her timeline. She refused to give a specific date. And then Hassan says that it happened in 2013. Jenny says that this happened in 2012 when she was a junior and I was a senior in high school. Hassan's saying that this happened when I was away at college, which wouldn't make sense because if the story somehow happened in 2013, I would not be home in Northern Virginia. I would be in Harrisonburg. So it was just this plethora of illogical details that it's so hard to keep up with. It was not coherent. It didn't matter if they were going to go with Hassan's story or with Jenny's story because their stories were different. And it's just crazy that there are two conflicting stories and it was enough to procure a warrant. Our defense was very thorough, and we had a lot more to provide. We showed about 3 months of text messages out of a total of over 40,000. We had 3 huge files of the text messages, one for each month, almost to kind of satirize and roast them for that silly timeline they provided. So we had all the text messages between me and Jenny from in March of 2013, April of 2013, May of 2013, and we added another month. We added June. It shows that we were in a relationship, which Jenny denied. Jenny denied that she was ever in a relationship with me. She said that I was a stranger that was over infatuated with her. And if we weren't in a relationship, and why would we be texting this much? And because there's so much communication, it generally reveals where we both are every single day. So we could refute her. It doesn't matter if she kept switching between, it actually happened March 2nd or March 3rd or March 4th or March 5th. We could basically refute every day because we had electronic records of where I was. And also I was a high school athlete in school. I wasn't barely home after school. I'd practiced practically every day. Anyway, those are getting to the intrinsic details. And then eventually the prosecutor asked Jenny to explain the text messages. We also provided a polygraph report that I took independently. And of course, some legal experts will say, well, polygraphs are not admissible, blah, 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 but they could still be considered by a jury, yada, yada, yada. But we just did that to kind of provide further doubt in the prosecutors and DeCoster's case. So we provided the text messages, my polygraph report, and basically the prosecutor, Jessica Grace Edwardson, talked to Jenny, talked to DeCoster. I did not witness this conversation, but it summarized to me, basically saying, what the hell is happening? DeCoster was just playing on his phone, and Jenny was basically switching between dates. And she just said, I can't remember, was it 2012, 2013? She couldn't decide. So the prosecutor said, okay, I'm just going to drop the charges. And charges were dropped at the preliminary hearing, which, according to the overwhelming majority of legal experts I've spoken to, is very unusual.
The blatant lack of actual police work done by Detective Darrin DeCoster is deplorable. He had overwhelming evidence that proved Mr. Zhang was innocent of this crime, yet he still falsely arrested him. In 2022, nearly a decade after his initial arrest, Mr. Zhang filed a civil lawsuit against his ex-girlfriend Jenny Zong and Detective Darrin DeCoster of the Fairfax County Police Department.
The refusal to prosecute DeCoster, who has a history of overly aggressive police work, continues to baffle me, and the fact that Jenny Zhang, who has a record of making false accusations to the Fairfax County Police and wasting your resources, wasting the time of your officers and your prosecutors, has never faced consequences for her actions.
Victor Zhang would file a complaint against Detective Darrin DeCoster, citing comments that were made during Mr. Zhang's interrogation that referred to his race and culture. He would explain to Internal Affairs that Detective DeCoster did very poor police work, if any at all, and would eventually falsely arrest him. Once the Internal Affairs investigation was complete, the Fairfax County Police Department would send Mr. Zhang this statement, claiming Detective Darrin DeCoster's actions were lawful and in compliance with FCPD regulations.